I used to be a weird Warriors kid. Now I'm a weird Warriors adult. Each week, I'm discussing a chapter of the iconic books by Aaron Hunter. My name is Charlie, and in today's episode, I will be talking about Prophecies Begin, Book 1, Into the Wild, Chapter 22. Join me on this adventure into the world of warrior cats. A quick reminder that if you'd like to get access to extra content like the spoiler extended versions of each episode, as well as access to the comment section, then you can subscribe for just $5 a month on Substack. Now on with the episode. The chapter art for Chapter 22 is a cat looking at a leaf falling. Now I have in my notes that one thing I wanted to look up from the previous chapter is colt's foot, which is the herb that Blue Star came up with on the spot. That is what the apprentices are looking for Brindleface's kits, when really she knows why they're actually leaving is not for that, but to find Yellowfang. Now she doesn't know why Ravenpaw is joining them, but still. But I wanted to look up colt's foot just out of curiosity what it looks like. Colt's foot. Oh, it's a pretty yellow flower. I wonder why it's called colt's foot. Maybe because those leaves look kind of like a horseshoe? Why is colt's foot called colt's foot? On a website, coastalrivers.org, it says colt's foot gets its name from the shape of its leaves, which resembles a horse's hoof with broad teeth around the margin. However, you usually won't see these emerge until after the plant has flowered. Interesting. Maybe it'll say on this page the medicinal properties. Yeah, it says people have used colt's foot medicinally for thousands of years to treat respiratory problems. A tincture made from dried colt's foot flowers and leaves has traditionally been used as a cough syrup, and the flowers have been dried and smoked to treat asthma, bronchitis, and coughs. That's also interesting. So, sounds like the warriors are using it accurately. But anyway, the chapter begins with Firepaw and Greypaw hurrying back to ThunderClan territory, hoping to track down Yellowfang's scent. Greypaw suggests that they just go straight into ShadowClan territory, but Firepaw doesn't want to believe that that's where she went. Now that the rain has stopped, the scents around them start to return, and by that I think it means just like they're able to smell stuff more clearly again, because right after that sentence, it says Firepaw hoped that the rain had not washed away Yellowfang's trail completely. So it's not like scents can come back after being washed away. It's just that the scents of the things that are still there are detectable again since they're not masked by the rain. But scents can be washed away. Anyway, unfortunately, they follow the smell of Yellowfang straight into ShadowClan. Firepaw wonders, did this mean Tiger Claw's accusations were true? They have to cross the Thunder Path to get into ShadowClan territory, and I'm surprised that they so boldly just go into that territory. Like, I know this is kind of a secret mission to go and retrieve Yellowfang, but I don't think they really discussed with Blue Star, hey, what if she's in a different clan's territory? Do we have permission to enter? Because that could lead to some problems if they enter another clan's territory. It's considered invading their territory. Now, ShadowClan has invaded and attacked them, but still, you want to think about these things carefully instead of just hurrying into it, I think. Especially for their safety, like, they don't necessarily know what they're walking into. They're inexperienced, and it's just a risky mission. So I was surprised that they didn't hang back and wonder, oh, should we even do this? Nope, they just went right in. But Greypaw does say, I always thought I'd have a few more warriors with me when I finally entered ShadowClan territory. Now that also confuses me, because why did he picture entering ShadowClan territory at all? Is this a regular occurrence for the clans to enter each other's territory? I mean, I know they travel through WindClan to get to the Moonstone, but that is like a specific route they have to take. I don't think ShadowClan is in the way of a specific destination they ever need to get to. So why would he picture going in there? Was he picturing a battle happening in there? Like, what stories has he heard growing up about interactions between the clans? Like, I don't know. Maybe he's just saying he thought if there ever happened to be a time where he had to enter for whatever reason, he would assume it would be in a situation where he'd be with warriors, which I guess does make sense. But Firepaw says, not afraid, are you? Aren't you? My mother warned me about the stench of ShadowClan many times. My mother never taught me such things, replied Firepaw. But for the first time he was relieved that his fur was so wet that it clung to his body. Greypaw might not notice the way it was bristling fearfully along his spine. It's just so precious to imagine these two characters pretending to not be afraid. Well, I guess mostly Firepaw pretending not to be afraid as they are on this mission together. They end up in the heart of ShadowClan's hunting grounds, and then Greypaw smells kit blood, and Firepaw signals toward a blackened ash tree up ahead where Yellowfang was sheltering behind the wide split trunk. I just love the way the tree is described, I guess. Like, I feel like that's a weird thing to be like, oh, I love the way it described this random tree, but like, I think the writing is good. Like, it's not just saying this happened, then that happened. It's like it has some poetic imagery to it, even in otherwise mundane details. But the two apprentices move strategically, one on either side of the tree, and sneak up on Yellowfang, using all the tricks of their basic training. And then they jump up to Yellowfang and pin her to the ground. And she says, I knew ThunderClan would blame me. And Firepaw and Greypaw question her about where are the kits, we could smell their blood. Yellowfang says, I don't have them. I've come to find them and take them back. I stopped because I smelled blood too, but they're not here. And Greypaw asks the questions Firepaw couldn't bring himself to say out loud, which are, why did she run away and why did she kill Spotted Leaf? But Yellowfang is shocked by this news that Spotted Leaf is dead. She says she left camp as soon as she heard that the kits were missing. Firepaw can tell she's telling the truth based on the tone of her voice and how surprised she is. And Yellowfang says she knows who took the kits, Clawface, one of Broken Star's warriors. And she says that Broken Star is planning to turn the kits into ShadowClan warriors. And Firepaw is remembering the small apprentice he saw at the gathering and realizes that it was in fact a kit. Yellowfang says, we're talking about a cat who killed kits from his own clan. Finally, we're getting the backstory and the reason why Yellowfang is so jumpy around kits. Firepaw asks, why wasn't he punished for killing ShadowClan kits? And Yellowfang says, because he blamed it on her. Firepaw asks if this is why she was kicked out of ShadowClan, which she doesn't answer because he says, you have to tell this to Blue Star, which she answers, not before I rescued your kits. But I think we know now that is the reason she was kicked out. I'm a little confused here because it says the rain had stopped, but I think we already established that a few pages earlier. Is this just reminding the reader? Because I think it's making the point that now that the rain has stopped, the ThunderClan patrol is probably on its way and pretty close. But Greypaw asks Yellowfang more about her story, and she says Broken Star insisted on training the kits too hard and too young. He took 2 of them away for battle practice. They were only 4 moons old. They were already dead when he brought them back to me. He must have fought them himself. When their mother came to see them, Broken Star was with me. He said he found me standing over their dead bodies. But Firepaw asks why she didn't tell the mother that it was Broken Star, and she says she couldn't because Broken Star is ShadowClan's leader. Noble Ragged Star was his father. His word is law. Now, this is very upsetting because it reminds me of the real world. We have corrupt, rich leaders who have committed horrible crimes, breaking the law, yet they seem to be exempt from punishment while accusing innocent people of crimes. It actually infuriates me, but I'm gonna try to stay collected here for the pod and for my own sanity, I guess. I don't know. But also, when she mentions Noble Ragged Star was his father, that seems like she really respected Ragged Star. So maybe she respected him because he was a decent leader and nothing like his son. But Broken Star would have had to learn his evil ways from someone. Or maybe, yeah, it's the nature versus nurture debate. It's probably a mix of both, but probably heavy on the nature side because Broken Star seems to be an actual psychopath, incapable of feeling empathy. The Firepaw says, "We'll rescue the kits together tonight," which I'm realizing means he's like, we're going to enter ShadowClan camp tonight. Like, Firepaw is just so brave. He's like, let's do it. Let's go there. We're 2 apprentices and an old medicine cat who's hated by 2 clans right now, at least, into the heart of enemy territory to save these kids. Like, it's very noble and brave, arguably reckless, but it's also exciting. Makes me want to read the next chapter right now, which I might actually do after I finish recording this episode. He says, if Tiger Claw is with them, Yellowfang doesn't stand a chance. He'll kill her before we can explain. And Yellowfang looks alert and determined again, now that they're all on the same page about this. Yellowfang leads the way to an area where there is some peat, which will be wet after the rain and disguise their scents. Now, I want to look up peat. I've definitely heard that before, and I'm picturing almost like algae, but I want to look it up just to be sure. Okay, there's some dirt. Now, it was autofilling peat moss. Okay, but what is it? I'm trying to use actual sources and not just the AI summary. Peat Wikipedia. Okay. Peat is an accumulation of partially decayed vegetation or organic matter. Peat moss is one of the most common components of peat, although many other plants can contribute. Okay, I feel like to really understand it in depth, I'd have to read a lot more about it, but I think we get the general gist. It's not really that important to the story, but I just like looking these things up, you know? It like makes it even easier to picture the world that the Aarons were intending for us to imagine. Now, it does say it is unique to natural areas called peatlands, bogs, mires, moors, or muskegs. Interesting. Okay, a muskeg. That image does look kind of like what I pictured ShadowClan to be, but I never really thought of it as a wetland or a bog, you know? I mean, I guess it was saying that it was very wet around there, but I just thought that was because of the rain. Maybe it generally is a wetland where ShadowClan lives, but I didn't really think of it that way before. I just thought of it as a generic pine forest, but dry. Anyway, they hurry over to hide, and they can hear ThunderClan's patrol approaching. And they follow Yellowfang onward. It says the ground grew soggier, and their paws began to sink into the soft peat. I think this is an advantage that ShadowClan has in general, having this soil that hides their smell when it's wet. Like, they had that problem in ThunderClan, but they could still smell things. Not as well when it was actively raining, but when it had stopped, they could pick up Yellowfang's scent again. But in ShadowClan territory, even when the rain stops, it's very difficult to smell other cats. Probably unless you're used to that territory and you've trained to really pick up those scents. But that's a really good, like, geological advantage, I guess, that ShadowClan has. But in this case, it is helping our hero. And they jump to hide in another spot. listening to the rustling of the ThunderClan patrol as it came nearer and nearer. And that's the end of chapter 22. Quite exciting and suspenseful, and I just want to keep reading. I can see why I loved this book so much as a kid and the ones that follow it, and I still love it. If you'd like to access extra content related to this podcast, then you can subscribe for just $5 a month on Substack. But otherwise, I'm excited for next week. For me, that will be right now because I'm actually going to read it right now. But for you, you will have to wait a week. I'm so sorry. But if you haven't checked out the previous episodes, you should. It's interesting because I've noticed in my analytics on YouTube and Substack, there will be some episodes that get some views and other episodes that get way less or even 0 views. And I'm just a little confused of how that happens because from my perspective, if I were to start listening to a podcast like this, I wouldn't start on like chapter 22. I would start with chapter 1, but you do you, whatever random chapter you want to listen to. I will not judge, but I will wonder why. Like, just let me know in the comments if you are subscribed why you would be interested in any specific chapter, because it's not like the chapters have iconic titles where you'd be like, oh, I remember that chapter. That is when this happened. I need to listen to that for nostalgia's sake. It's like, oh, chapter 22. Yeah, like I remember that. Like I would not remember. So anyway, maybe it's just the first video someone stumbles across and they click on it and listen for a bit and then decide to either stay or leave, which is up to any person who stumbles across my content. But anyway, it's just interesting how that stuff works with the algorithm and everything. But I'm just going to keep making the episodes, so hopefully my audience will find me soon. I really appreciate anyone who has been listening in these early stages of this podcast. And if this podcast is still going years from now, because it will take me years to get through the series, and if it is years from now, it's currently April of 2026, and someone is listening back on these episodes starting from book 1 and onward, I really appreciate you also for listening now. So anyway, I'm just dragging this out because I love recording this and it's fun. So the point is, thank you, and I will see you next week. Oh, and I just remembered my mascot. Let me give my podcast mascot a chance to have a small appearance. Okay, there we go. This has been Into the World of Warrior Cats.